Hello, dear listener. I'd like to start our time together with a simple invitation. Breathe with me for a moment. A full, conscious breath. Allow your shoulders to relax, even just a little. Perhaps you've been looking for this content because you feel the weight of perfection on your shoulders. Maybe you're tired of never feeling enough, of always seeing the gap between where you are and where you should be. If you recognize yourself in these words, know that you are not alone on this journey. Perfectionism and excessive self-checking are the silent companions of many brilliant, dedicated, and sensitive people. These are traits that may have brought you far in life: academic recognition, professional achievements, admiration from others. At the same time, they may be taking a significant toll on your inner peace, joy, and mental health. Today, we will explore this complex territory together with compassion and curiosity. Not to eliminate your ambition or desire for excellence, but to find a balance that allows you to truly flourish, not just to function. Understanding perfectionism. Beyond the surface, perfectionism goes far beyond the simple desire to do things well. At its core, it is a pattern of thinking and behavior characterized by setting unrealistically high standards, excessive focus on faults and imperfections, self-evaluation based primarily on performance, deep fear of disappointing others or being judged, difficulty celebrating achievements before moving on to the next challenge. Psychologist Brené Brown describes perfectionism not as the pursuit of excellence, but as a way of thinking and feeling that says, if I look perfect, live perfectly, work perfectly, do everything perfectly, I can minimize or avoid the pain of guilt, judgment, and shame. This insight is crucial. Perfectionism, at its root, is not about achieving something external, but about protecting yourself from something internal. Feelings of inadequacy, fear of rejection, or the deep feeling that your worth depends entirely on your performance. The roots of perfectionism. Where does this voice come from? Our perfectionist patterns rarely arise in a vacuum. They often have their origins in our formative experiences, childhood experiences. Perhaps you grew up in an environment where love and approval seemed conditional on your performance. Perhaps you heard phrases like, "Why didn't you get a 10?" when you got a 9, or received more attention when you achieved things than when you were simply yourself. Cultural and social messages. We live in a society that often glorifies the constant hustle, that confuses human value with productivity, that bombards us with images of seemingly perfect lives on social media. These external voices become internalized over time. Coping mechanisms. For some, perfectionism developed as a way of creating a sense of control in unpredictable or chaotic environments. If we couldn't control what was happening around us, at least we could control our own performance. Temperamental traits. Some people are born with a heightened sensitivity, a heightened awareness of detail, or a natural tendency to worry. These traits can manifest themselves as perfectionism when combined with certain life experiences. Understanding the roots of your perfectionist patterns is not about assigning blame, either to yourself or to others, but about developing self-compassion. These patterns have developed for understandable reasons, often as attempts to protect oneself in specific circumstances. The hidden price of perfection. When perfectionism becomes our default operating mode, we begin to pay prices that may initially go unnoticed. Impact on mental health. Research consistently shows that perfectionism is associated with high levels of anxiety, depression, burnout syndrome, and even suicidal thoughts. The constant pressure to reach impossible standards creates a chronic state of stress. Damaged relationships. Perfectionism can make us critical not only of ourselves, but of others. It can lead us to keep people at a distance for fear of being seen in our imperfections, or make genuine intimacy difficult. Block creativity. Innovation requires a willingness to experiment, fail, and learn, exactly what perfectionism tries to prevent. When we are focused on doing something perfectly, we often miss the opportunity to do something truly original. Paradoxical procrastination. Counterintuitively, perfectionists often procrastinate. If the only acceptable option is perfection, the fear of failure can become paralyzing, leading to procrastination and then last-minute rushes. Diminished joy. Perhaps the most significant cost is the inability to feel genuine satisfaction with achievements and present moments. The perfectionist is always looking towards the next mountain to climb, rarely allowing themselves to enjoy the view from the current peak. The crucial difference: perfectionism versus the healthy pursuit of excellence. It's important to distinguish between debilitating perfectionism and a healthy orientation towards excellence. They may seem similar on the surface, but they differ fundamentally in motivation, process, and impact. Motivation: perfectionism, driven by fear of failure, judgment, and the belief that personal worth depends on performance. Healthy pursuit of excellence, motivated by personal values, joy in the process, desire for growth and contribution. Relationship with failure. Perfectionism sees failures as unacceptable, as evidence of personal inadequacy. Healthy pursuit of excellence sees failures as valuable information, learning opportunities, and a natural part of the process. Standards. Perfectionism sets rigid, unrealistic, and often unattainable standards. Healthy pursuit of excellence sets high but realistic standards, adaptable to circumstances. Focus of attention. Perfectionism, obsessive focus on mistakes, failures, and what could be better. Healthy pursuit of excellence recognizes areas for improvement while also appreciating what has been done well. Emotional impact. Perfectionism generates constant anxiety, diminished sense of accomplishment, brief or non-existent satisfaction. Healthy pursuit of excellence, compatible with emotional well-being, allows for genuine satisfaction in progress and achievements. The good news is that it is possible to maintain your ambition and high standards while freeing yourself from the debilitating traps of perfectionism. This transformation begins with compassionate self-knowledge. Reflective practice. Recognizing your standards, I invite you to reflect briefly. Think of a recent project or activity where you felt the pressure of perfectionism. Gently explore. What were your standards for considering this work good enough? Where did these standards come from? Are they really yours or internalized from other sources? What thoughts or emotions arose when you considered the possibility of not meeting these standards? How did these standards affect your experience of the process? Did they bring productive focus or unnecessary suffering? This kind of self-reflection is not about judging yourself, but about developing greater awareness of the patterns that may be operating below the surface of your consciousness. The middle way. Strategies for transforming your relationship with performance. Let's now explore practical approaches to cultivating a more balanced relationship with ambition and performance, maintaining your motivation and quality standards while freeing yourself from the tyranny of perfectionism. Practice conscious self-compassion. Self-compassion is not self-indulgence or laziness. It is treating yourself with the same kindness and understanding that you would offer to a dear friend facing difficulties. Practice. When you notice severe self-criticism, pause and place a hand on your heart. Acknowledge the present suffering. This is hard right now, or I'm being too hard on myself. Offer words of kindness that you would naturally say to someone you love. This simple practice activates your parasympathetic, rest and digest, nervous system, counteracting the stress response associated with harsh self-criticism. Researcher Kristen Neff found that people with greater self-compassion don't have lower standards. They simply don't punish themselves when they fail to meet them, which makes them more resilient and, ironically, more likely to try again after setbacks. Cultivate a growth mindset. Psychologist Carol Dweck differentiates between a fixed mindset, where skills are seen as static traits, and a growth mindset, where skills are seen as developable through effort and learning. Perfectionists often operate from an unrecognized fixed mindset. If I'm not naturally excellent at something right away, it reflects my intrinsic worth. Practice. Add the word yet to your negative self-assessments. I'm not good at it becomes I'm not good at it yet. Celebrate effort and progress, not just perfect results. Keep a learning journal where you regularly write down not only achievements, but valuable lessons from challenging experiences. Implement good enough work. Psychoanalyst D.W. Winnicott developed the concept of the good enough mother, recognizing that parental perfection is not only impossible, but potentially harmful. The child needs adequate, not perfect, care in order to develop healthily. We can apply this principle to our own expectations, asking, what would be good enough in this specific context? Practice. For each project or task, consciously define 3 levels. Minimum acceptable meets basic requirements. Good enough meets quality standards without excessive polish. Exceptional excellence, for when the context really justifies extraordinary investment. Not everything in your life requires the highest level. Learning to direct your finite resources where they really matter is wisdom, not laziness. Develop tolerance for discomfort. Perfectionists often try to avoid the anxiety and discomfort that accompany the risk of imperfection. However, this avoidance only strengthens the perfectionist cycle. Practice. Start deliberately doing things imperfectly in low-risk areas. Send an email with a small grammatical error. Share a piece of work that you consider only 85% done. Leave your home slightly disorganized when you receive visitors. Observe the physical sensations and thoughts that arise. Breathe through the discomfort, noticing that it usually subsides over time and rarely has the catastrophic consequences we fear. Redefine your relationship with failure. Fear of failure is at the heart of perfectionism. Transforming your understanding of what constitutes failure can free up significant creative energy. Practice. Keep a failure log where you document attempts that didn't go as expected, along with what you learned from the experience, how the experience contributed to your growth, what you would do differently on your next attempt. This process normalizes failure as an integral part of the growth process, not as a verdict on its worth. Great innovators and creators often have more failures than the average person, not because they are less capable, but because they try more things, take more risks, and see each attempt as an experiment, not a test of personal worth. Practice body self-awareness. Perfectionism doesn't just reside in our minds, but manifests itself physically, in muscle tension, restricted breathing, or a feeling of tightness in the chest. Our body often signals when we are in the grip of perfectionist demands. Practice, several times a day, especially during tasks where perfectionism tends to arise. Do a brief body scan. Notice areas of tension without judgment. Consciously breathe into these areas, inviting relaxation. Ask, what is my body trying to tell me right now? What do I need right now? This simple practice can interrupt the automatic cycle of self-demand, bringing awareness to the present moment and creating space for more conscious choices. Applying to everyday life. Specific areas. Perfectionism. At work, the professional environment often reinforces and rewards perfectionist tendencies. Some specific strategies for this context. Consciously prioritize your tasks using the Eisenhower matrix. What is urgent and important versus what can be delegated or given less attention. Practice the MVP, minimally viable product, concept even outside of software development. What is the simplest version that meets essential needs? Set time limits for tasks prone to overimprovement. When time runs out, hand in the work or ask for feedback, rather than continuing to refine indefinitely. Cultivate a trusted feedback network, colleagues who can offer honest perspective on when your work has reached an excellent standard. Perfectionism in relationships. Perfectionism can manifest itself as unrealistic expectations of partners, children, friends, or yourself in relationships. Practice identifying the difference between core values, mutual respect, honesty, and preferences, how things are done, timing, expression. Cultivate curiosity about different ways of seeing and doing things. Ask yourself, is there really only one right way to do this? Develop the habit of expressing specific appreciation for others, focusing on what is present and valuable, not on what is missing. Make time for genuine connection without an agenda or expectations of perfect social performance. Perfectionism with body and health. Unrealistic standards related to appearance, diet, and exercise can be particularly pernicious. Replace appearance-based goals with goals based on how your body feels and functions. Practice identifying and honoring your body's signals of hunger, fullness, energy, and fatigue. Critically question messages from the media and social networks about what bodies should look like. Cultivate a perspective of lifelong care rather than short-term radical transformations. Integrating imperfection, a daily practice transforming perfectionist standards, is an ongoing journey, not a destination. Here are practices that can support this journey on a daily basis. Practice failing on a small scale. Regularly do something you're not naturally good at, with no expectation of mastery. Dance if you're not a dancer. Draw if you're not an artist. Try a new language or musical instrument. The goal is not performance, but to cultivate comfort with the process of learning and imperfection. Develop a reality mantra. Create a simple phrase that you can repeat when you feel perfectionism creeping in. Progress, not perfection, or I'm doing the best I can with the resources I have now. Cultivate an end-of-day ritual. Before going to sleep, reflect on 3 things you did well today, no matter how small, 1 thing you learned, and 1 act of self-care that you will practice tomorrow. Seek out the company of recovering perfectionists. We are influenced by those around us. Seek out people who model a healthy relationship with ambition and self-acceptance, who can laugh at their own mistakes and celebrate their successes without belittling them. A new narrative, from perfectionist to possibilist. Perhaps the most profound aspect of this journey is the shift in identity from perfectionist to what we might call possibilist. Someone who remains open to the multiple possibilities of being, creating and contributing without confinement in rigid expectations. The possibilist understands that life is not a test to be passed with flying colors, but an experience to be lived to the full. That value does not lie in the absence of failure, but in the courage to keep showing yourself, trying, learning, and growing. Gradually, you can begin to recognize that your imperfections are not obstacles to your value, but an integral part of your humanity, often the very source of your creativity, connection, and unique contribution. An invitation to the way ahead. As we conclude our time together, I'd like to leave you with a gentle invitation. Try visualizing your path ahead not as a straight line towards perfection, but as a spiral of growth that incorporates all aspects of your experience. Your successes and failures, your strengths and vulnerabilities, your moments of clarity and confusion. Imagine what it would be like to approach your goals and ambitions not with the weight of perfectionist demands, but with the vitality of genuine curiosity. What it would be like to create, work, and live from a place of fundamental sufficiency, not constant deficit. Breathe deeply again and recognize the courage that has brought you this far, the willingness to examine these deep-rooted patterns and consider a different approach. This is a journey that happens one moment at a time, one choice at a time. And in each moment where you choose self-compassion over self-criticism, curiosity over judgment, possibility over perfectionism, you are not only transforming your own experience, you are contributing to a world where we can all feel freer to be authentically, imperfectly human. I'm here, walking with you on this ongoing journey of self-discovery and liberation. One step at a time, one moment at a time,